Brothers and sisters, today I speak to you with a heart trembling with urgency, because what you are about to hear is not a simple story, not a tale, nor a passing message that can be forgotten with the light of day. No, it is a call from heaven, a whisper that has been heard from the confines of time and that comes now, at this hour, to shake our sleeping souls. The Virgin Mary has manifested herself in a profound silence, in which the men and women of the world have forgotten to raise their gaze to heaven, trapped by routine, by earthly concerns, by the illusion of control over all they believe they possess. But the reality, my dear ones, is that there are forces that pull the strings of destiny and that can only be contained by those who listen, by those who open their hearts to the voice of the divine. On the night of this November 1st, while most sleep unaware of the fate that looms over them, the Mother of Heaven has shed her light upon 3 nations that will be profoundly shaken, not only by visible events, but by spiritual transformations that will begin to shape the consciousness of millions. These nations, whose names time has yet to reveal to the blind of the world, will be touched by the power of the invisible. And it will be there that the human spirit will be tested, where faith will be measured, and where souls that cling to indifference will feel the weight of their carelessness. But before this happens, before the heavens move with a silent and powerful roar, there is a moment of preparation, an instant in which each person's heart can open to hear the call in the night of silence. The Virgin Mary shows us that humanity has forgotten the essential, that prayer is a shield, hope is a beacon, and faith is the anchor that keeps us firm in the face of approaching chaos. The lights that shine in the night are not just stars, but symbols of the spiritual vigilance we must maintain. Every tear shed in silence, every word spoken with sincerity, every act of true love is a thread intertwined in the protection of nations and their peoples. However, the Mother also warns that many will ignore these signs, that many will continue walking like blind people among shadows, unable to perceive the magnitude of what is coming. Listen carefully, brothers and sisters. Silence is not empty. Silence is an echo of heaven calling, a murmur that only the attentive can hear. At this moment, the Virgin approaches the hearts of the just and those who still seek the truth, and says to them, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm. Trials will come, but I am with you." Imagine the image of the Mother standing in the midst of darkness, her eyes filled with tears that are not only of sadness, but of a love so profound it hurts. A love that cannot bear to see her children lost in indifference. A love that offers itself as a refuge and guide to those who still want to listen. Every beat of her heavenly heart resounds like a drum in the souls of those who have faith, reminding them that they are not alone, that even in the darkest night the light of her presence never goes out. At this moment, the prophecy intensifies. Our Lady reminds us that the heavens do not act without cause, that every natural event, every change in the winds and tides, every convulsion of the earth is a sign, a message to be interpreted with an open heart. She invites us to look beyond the visible, to read between the lines of seemingly random events, because everything is a warning, everything is a path toward preparation. She speaks of the sleeping children, those who walk through life without perceiving the urgency of the times. For them, the call is even stronger. Every warning, every sign, every event is an opportunity to awaken, to open our eyes, to allow the light of the Spirit to enter and transform darkness into clarity. And as we listen, we also feel the Mother's sadness. Her tears fall not only for what is to come, but for what has already been lost. For every soul that has chosen indifference over prayer, for every heart that has closed its doors to love and mercy. But not all is hopeless. The Virgin also promises protection for those who listen, for those who act with faith and humility. If you remain in prayer, If you seek refuge in my Son, if you act with love and compassion, I will be with you, and the storm will pass over you without destroying you," she says in a firm maternal voice. On this night of November 1st, as millions ignore the call, the Mother guides us through a series of prophetic images. We see cities that seem asleep, seas that whisper warnings, skies that shimmer with lights that scientists cannot explain. But beyond the physical, the most striking vision is spiritual. The interconnectedness of all souls, the invisible fabric that unites those who listen and those who may yet awaken. Every prayer spoken this night, every act of sincere kindness, every word of encouragement sent to those in need, is a point of light in the vast darkness, a thread of hope that can save an entire nation. Brothers and sisters, this is not a time for indifference. This is not a time to wait for events to knock on the doors of our cities. It is a time to listen, to prepare, to open our hearts, and allow the light of the Holy Spirit to transform us from within. Because the shock that will come will not only be external but internal, and only those who have cultivated their faith and kept the flame of prayer alive will be able to resist and remain steadfast. The call in the night of silence is personal and collective. Personal for every heart that still desires to be saved, collective for all humanity that can still choose the path of love and mercy. As the night draws on and the clock of destiny ticks on, let us remember these words. The Virgin Mary does not abandon her children. Her penetrating gaze, filled with love and warning, calls us to wake up, to look beyond the obvious, to seek the truth amidst the confusion. This is only the first step, the first breath of the prophecy that will mark the coming days, weeks, and months. If we listen, if we prepare, if we remain steadfast in faith, then we will witness not only the events that will shake the three countries, but also the miracle of salvation that arises from obedience and sincere devotion. Brothers and sisters, may this call not be ignored. May our souls be open and our hearts awakened. May prayer and love become our weapons and shields. For heaven speaks, the Virgin calls us, and the night of silence will soon be illuminated by the light of awakened conscience, by reborn hope, and by the protection of He who never abandons His children. Listen, obey, and prepare, for the journey is just beginning, and the call in the night of silence will be remembered by those who wish to listen and act. Brothers and sisters, as the night draws on and the world sleeps, oblivious to the signs multiplying around it, heaven sets its gaze upon three specific countries, three nations that will soon feel the weight of the prophetic in every corner. The Virgin Mary has shown in clear visions, which leave no room for doubt, how these lands will be touched not by whim, but as part of a greater plan, as a call to reflection, repentance, and profound faith. Every street, every city, every community will be impacted, not only by visible events, but by a spiritual change that will shake hearts, awakening both fear and hope. The first country, whose identity is revealed only to those who listen with an open heart, will witness upheavals that will affect not only the land, but also the souls of its people. Entire cities will feel trapped in a strange silence before the chaos, a silence that will be interrupted by events that will defy human logic. The Virgin warns that many will try to resist in fear, seeking rational explanations where only the divine exists, and that those who do not prepare themselves in prayer and faith will be swept away by confusion and panic. But those who listen, those who recognize the presence of the sacred in the midst of the storm, will find refuge and protection, guided by a light that no man can extinguish. The second country, although distant in distance, will be spiritually close to the first, because the events that unfold there will have repercussions that cross borders. The Virgin Mary shows how water, air, and earth will move in unexpected ways, revealing the fragility of the world before the power of heaven. But beyond the physical, the true impact will be spiritual. Entire families will be confronted with the choice between faith and despair, between selfishness and compassion. In the Virgin's visions, leaders and citizens are seen facing decisions that will mark the history of their nations, decisions they can only make if they have heeded the call of prayer and divine protection. The third country will perhaps be the most affected, not because it is the weakest, but because its destiny is closely linked to that of the other two. Here the Virgin has shown scenes of cities illuminated by lights no one had ever seen before, signs that men will ignore as natural phenomena, but which are direct manifestations of the heavenly. In those lights, in that supernatural brilliance, lies the most powerful warning. The time of indifference is over, and only spiritual preparation and sincere devotion can save those who are attentive. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every open heart will become an invisible shield that will protect from confusion and disaster. Brothers and sisters, it's not just about what will happen physically. Prophecy reveals how these events will touch the collective soul of every nation, exposing the injustices, corruption, lack of faith, and the abandonment of the values that hold us together as human beings. The images the Virgin Mary shares are clear. We see crowds in squares, praying, weeping, seeking guidance. We see leaders with blank stares, trying to control the uncontrollable. We see families separated by fear and despair, but we also see those who have remained steadfast in faith, helping, comforting, and guiding the lost. All of this unfolds under the gaze of a heaven that does not abandon, that watches and protects, waiting for its children to awaken. The Virgin speaks directly to the hearts of those who listen. These countries will not be punished without reason. Every shock, every change, every sign is an opportunity for renewal, a call to repentance and a sincere search for the Holy Spirit. Do not fear what is to come. Do not fear losing the opportunity to draw closer to my Son. Each word is an echo that resonates in the soul of those who understand the urgency. The time to act is now. Indifference and spiritual neglect are no longer options. The three countries under heaven's gaze are about to experience an awakening that will change their history, and those who are attentive will be the guardians of light in the midst of darkness. Our Lady also reveals the importance of collective prayer. She shows how, even from a distance, the sincere prayers of millions can unite invisible forces that will protect entire cities, mitigating the impact of events and providing spiritual refuge to those seeking salvation. Every country, though separated by borders, is connected by an invisible thread of faith, and prophecy reminds us that prayer is not just a personal act, but an act of intercession and love that can change the destiny of entire nations. Awakened hearts will become beacons, guiding the lost to protection and hope. The message is clear and urgent. The three countries under heaven's gaze will be shaken, yes, but they will also be called to rise again. This is not about senseless destruction, but about purification, revelation, and a spiritual awakening that will mark a before and after in history. The Virgin Mary teaches us that true strength does not come from weapons, political power, or wealth, but from firm faith, from love that is given without expecting anything in return, and from the ability to remain united under divine protection. The light that emerges from prayer and obedience to God is more powerful than any storm, stronger than any adversity, and capable of transforming darkness into living hope. Brothers and sisters, as this night progresses and time continues, we cannot allow distraction to blind us. The Virgin Mary invites us to look with spiritual eyes, to perceive the signs, and to act with faith. The three countries under heaven's gaze are not just geographical locations. They are symbols of human awakening, of the need to return to love, compassion, and constant prayer. Every tear shed, every word of encouragement, every act of kindness is a reflection of heavenly protection and a step toward the preparation we all need. Heaven calls us, the Mother protects us, and the future of these three countries will depend on the ability of their inhabitants to listen, open their hearts, and act with sincere faith. There is no time to lose. The prophecy is being fulfilled, and those who listen today will be the keepers of the light tomorrow. Brothers and sisters, pay close attention, because what I'm about to share is not just any warning, but a direct message from heaven, reaching us through the Virgin Mary. There are signs that precede storms, not only those seen in the heavens or felt on earth, but those that touch the soul, that stir the spirit and herald changes that no man could foresee on his own. These signs are like beacons in the midst of darkness, warnings for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. The Virgin Mary has shown that before the three countries are shaken, very clear signs will appear, visible to those who are attentive and other more subtle ones, which only sensitive hearts will be able to perceive. In her visions, one sees the sky change color, dark clouds gather in specific places, and strange lights cross the firmament in ways that defy human explanation. Some will mistake them for natural phenomena, but those with faith will recognize them as divine messages, preparations for what is to come, signs that announce both danger and an opportunity for salvation. Among the most striking signs, the Virgin Mary showed how the water in rivers and seas will begin to behave in unusual ways. Tides rising for no apparent reason, currents changing direction, torrential rains in places that had never seen them before. These physical manifestations are reflections of the approaching spiritual movement, where man sees chaos, heaven sees an opportunity for redemption. Where man sees fear, heaven sees a spiritual awakening. The Virgin Mary teaches us to interpret these signs with discernment, not to be swept away by panic, but to use them as calls to prayer and repentance. But not all signs are visible to the eyes. Our Lady also shows how hearts will be deeply touched. Feelings of inexplicable anguish, prophetic dreams, encounters with people bearing urgent messages. Some will feel a constant restlessness, a fear that cannot be rationally explained, and this will be the spirit warning before the storm. It is a time when souls will be tested, where true faith will be revealed in the face of superficiality, compassion in the face of selfishness, and obedience in the face of indifference. Every thought, every decision, every action will have a spiritual weight far greater than what is perceived with the naked eye. The Virgin Mary has also shown that these signs are not uniform for all. In the three countries mentioned above, some regions will feel the warning more intensely, others more subtly. This has a purpose: to discern who is truly attentive and willing to respond with faith. Communities that pray together, keep hope alive, and practice charity will be protected in a special way. This is why the Virgin Mary insists that collective prayer and spiritual unity are more important than ever. The power of millions of hearts connected to God can change the trajectory of events, mitigating the impact and guiding the lost to salvation. Among the signs that precede the storm, the Virgin Mary has shown phenomena that defy logic: animals behaving strangely, birds migrating out of season, skies shining with lights that seem like coded messages. Every detail has a purpose: to awaken humanity's dormant conscience, to remind it that we are not alone, that heaven is watching, and that history unfolds according to a divine plan. People who ignore these signs do so at their own peril, while those who pay attention will be able to prepare themselves physically and spiritually for what is to come. The Virgin Mary, with tears in her eyes, also warns about the importance of not falling into despair. The signs are intense, some terrifying, but their purpose is not to destroy, but to save. She invites us to observe calmly, discern with faith, and respond with action. Each sign should be interpreted as a call to strengthen prayer, to reconcile with God, to forgive, to help others, and to live with spiritual awareness. Hearts that act in this way will be like beacons guiding others through the storm, bringing hope where fear might dominate. In these visions, Our Lady also showed how the approaching spiritual storm will not only be a matter of natural events, but of internal and social conflicts that will suddenly intensify. Injustices will be exposed, lies unmasked, and spiritual truth will emerge forcefully. Those who are prepared, who have followed the signs and acted with faith, will be the ones who can hold the light in the midst of darkness, helping to rebuild broken communities and hearts. Brothers and sisters, what the Virgin Mary teaches us is that being attentive to the signs is more than just looking at the sky. It is looking within ourselves, recognizing our faults, strengthening our faith, and acting with love. Every sign is a reminder that time is running out, that we must wake up, pray, and protect those around us. There are no coincidences. Every natural phenomenon, every prophetic dream, every inexplicable intuition is a direct message from heaven, preparing us for events that will change the history of these three countries and the entire world. The urgency of this message cannot be ignored. The sign before the storm is clear, unmistakable, and rapidly approaching. Those who see with faith, those who listen attentively, and those who act with a pure heart will be ready for what is coming, not only surviving but also being a light and guide for others. Our Lady reminds us the storm may be strong, but faith and prayer are stronger than any earthly force. Those who trust in heaven will not fear, for they will be sustained by divine protection. At this moment, the call is to spiritual vigilance. Every prayer, every act of kindness, every moment of repentance will be an invisible shield protecting not only the individual, but their community. The sign before the storm is a reminder that we are connected, that our actions have spiritual weight, and that faith can transform even the darkest moments into opportunities for salvation and light. Brothers and sisters, the Virgin Mary teaches us that heaven communicates in ways that many fail to understand, not only through visions, direct messages, or miraculous signs, but also through nature itself, which acts as a divine language, an open book that only those with faith can read. Every river, every tree, every sunrise holds a message, a hidden secret that the modern world forgets to interpret. This teaching is crucial because it connects us to the eternal truth. Heaven and earth are in constant dialogue, and we are recipients of that conversation if we open our hearts. The Virgin Mary has shown that before the great events that will shake the three countries, nature itself will begin to give clear signs. Trees that suddenly wither, flowers that bloom out of season, birds that migrate in unusual directions, animals that seem alarmed for no apparent reason. All of this is a spiritual language. These are not isolated phenomena or coincidences. They are divine messages calling humanity to awaken. Every detail, no matter how small, has a purpose and a profound meaning that we must discern with attention and prayer. Water, a sacred and purifying element, will be one of the most visible messengers of these times. Rivers that change their course, rains that appear in unexpected places, tides that rise without human explanation. All of this is not only a warning about natural changes, but a call to repentance and reconciliation with God. The Virgin Mary has shown that where water overflows, where nature is disturbed, there is also a place of spiritual opportunity, a place where the human heart can be reborn, where prayer has multiplied power, and where faith can transform fear into hope. But it's not just physical phenomena that speak. Nature has a symbolic language that reaches the soul. Flowers that bloom despite drought teach us resilience. Trees that withstand storms show us strength. Animals that protect their young remind us of the value of mutual protection and care. Each element is a mirror of spiritual life, a lesson that invites us to reflect on how we live, how we relate to others, and how we respond to the voice of heaven. In her visions, Our Lady also showed how light and the heavens will carry messages. Sunrises with extraordinary colors, skies illuminated by unexpected auroras, clouds forming in unusual patterns. All of this is not just a visual spectacle, but a spiritual code. Prophets and visionaries of the past have taught that the heavens speak, and Our Lady confirms that today, more than ever, we must learn to read these signs. Ignoring them would be like closing our eyes to a lighthouse that guides us through the storm. The Virgin Mary, with profound love, warns us that we must be attentive to changes in animals and plants because they are reflections of humanity's spiritual state. When the earth is disturbed, when animals show restlessness, it is a sign that spiritual balance is also under strain. It is a call to examine our inner life. Where have we failed? Where do we need to ask for forgiveness? Where should we act with greater love and compassion? Every natural change is a mirror that reflects our inner world and invites us to correct our course before greater events occur. Furthermore, the Virgin has shown that extraordinary phenomena will manifest in these times, combining the natural with the supernatural. Lights falling from the sky onto mountains, rain that appears to take unusual shapes, and animals that seem to guide people to safe places. For those with faith, these events are not mysteries or coincidences, but rather direct messages from heaven, signs of protection and warnings that mark the way. Attentive hearts will recognize that nature acts as a messenger, silently but powerfully transmitting divine instructions. Another essential aspect is the connection to the earth. The Virgin Mary shows that we must respect and care for the planet, because every act of kindness toward nature is also an act of obedience to God. The earth is sacred, and those who act with faith and love toward it will receive guidance and protection. Nature, in this sense, becomes a teacher and a mirror. It teaches us patience, resilience, humility, and obedience. To ignore its signs would be to ignore the voice of heaven, and to fail to recognize the opportunity to learn leaves us vulnerable to the changes to come. The visions reveal how the signs of nature will be accompanied by intense collective emotions. Many people will feel inexplicable fear upon observing unusual phenomena. Others will experience profound comfort and clarity amidst the confusion. Our Lady reminds us that every experience is a spiritual test. Remaining calm, discerning with faith, and acting with love will allow us to transform fear into trust and despair into active prayer. Nature, then, speaks not only to the eyes, but also to the heart. Brothers and sisters, we must understand that these signs are not meant to be paralyzed by fear, but rather to prepare us and strengthen our connection with God. Every tree, every river, every animal, and every colorful sky is a letter from heaven warning us, guiding us, and protecting us. To ignore these signs would be to close our eyes to grace. Observing them with faith and discernment gives us strength to face the challenges ahead, to protect our loved ones, and to be beacons of light in the midst of darkness. Finally, the Virgin Mary calls us to action, to pray for our earth, to care for the living beings around us, to meditate on the hidden message that every natural phenomenon brings with it. It is a time of profound spiritual awakening, a time in which humanity must open its heart and mind to understand that the hidden message in nature is a divine guide toward salvation, protection, and hope. Whoever listens attentively, whoever observes with faith, and whoever acts with love will not only survive the coming storm, but will also be an instrument of light and redemption for all around them. Brothers and sisters, after understanding how nature becomes a messenger from heaven, the Virgin Mary now leads us to an even deeper level, the mystery of the last message. This message is not visible to the naked eye, nor can it be heard with the ears of the world. It is a divine whisper, a call that reaches directly to the hearts of those who seek truth and light. In her revelations, the Virgin Mary has shown that this message contains crucial warnings, precise instructions, and signs of hope that will prepare humanity for what is coming in the 3 countries that will be shaken. The mystery of the last message is not simply a warning, it is an act of heavenly love, a gift from heaven that comes at a time when confusion and despair threaten to engulf the world. Those who can recognize it and receive it with faith will experience an inner transformation. Anxiety will give way to clarity, doubt will become certainty, and fear will dissipate in a profound sense of divine purpose and protection. The Virgin Mary insists that humanity needs to open its heart, listen without prejudice, and act swiftly for this message to fulfill its saving function. In her visions, Our Lady has shown that this message will present itself in unexpected ways. It may come through dreams, visions, signs in nature, celestial phenomena, or even chance encounters with people, objects, or words that seem trivial but contain profound meaning. All of this is designed to touch the human soul and lead it toward conversion and spiritual preparation. This is not a message to be feared, but a guide who lights the way in times of darkness. The content of the last message focuses on three essential pillars: intense prayer, unity with family and community, and action based on faith. Our Lady emphasizes that prayer should not be superficial or mechanical. It should come from the heart, with total dedication and sincerity. Every word addressed to heaven has immense power, capable of moving mountains, calming storms, and opening paths where none existed before. Intense prayer becomes an invisible shield, a spiritual protection that safeguards God's children from approaching adversities. The second pillar is unity with loved ones and the community. The Virgin Mary has shown that heaven's message does not act in isolation. Its power is multiplied when it is shared with others. Those who remain alone in their faith may face confusion and fear, but those who create strong bonds with family, neighbors, and friends strengthen their ability to withstand challenges and spread light amidst the darkness. Every gesture of solidarity, every act of love, every shared prayer becomes a thread connecting humanity to divine protection. The third pillar is action based on faith. It is not enough to hear or understand the message. It is necessary to act according to the instructions received, make decisions courageously, obey heaven's guidance, and extend protection and hope to others. The Virgin Mary shows that those who ignore this step are exposed to chaos and confusion, while those who follow divine instruction find solutions where all seemed lost, security where all seemed uncertain, and light where all seemed dark. The mystery of the last message also includes clear warnings about the times ahead. Our Lady has revealed that certain events will impact the three countries mentioned, not only on a physical level, but also on a spiritual and emotional level. The purpose of these warnings is not to cause panic, but rather to prepare the human heart to respond with faith and wisdom, to recognize the signs that heaven will send, and to act in such a way that divine grace may be fully manifested in every family, community, and city affected. Furthermore, this message brings with it promises of protection and comfort for those who receive it with purity of heart. The Virgin Mary assures that those who remain steadfast in their faith, who pray sincerely, and who act with love, will be guided, protected, and blessed in extraordinary ways. No danger will take them unawares. No storm will overwhelm them without them finding refuge and safety. The last message is, therefore, both a warning and a gift of hope, a reminder that heaven is always vigilant and never abandons its children. The Virgin Mary has also shown that perceiving this message requires a pure and attentive heart. Routine, distraction, disbelief, and indifference act as barriers that prevent us from receiving the full revelation. Those who open themselves with humility and deep prayer will be able to interpret the signs and act with discernment, understanding the connection between the visible and the invisible, between natural events and heavenly messages. Finally, brothers and sisters, we must understand that the mystery of the last message is not a static message, nor limited to a specific moment. It is a continuous flow of guidance, warning, and protection that heaven sends every day and every moment to those who wish to see with the eyes of the soul. Learning to listen, interpret, and act upon this message is the key to navigating the turbulent times ahead and to becoming a beacon of light, love, and hope in the midst of a world that seems increasingly dark and confused. Brothers and sisters, after understanding the mystery of the last message, the Virgin Mary leads us to an even more powerful and transformative concept: the atmosphere-changing presence. This is not a superficial change, nor a momentary effect. It is a spiritual influence that manifests when divine grace becomes visible in a space, in a home, in a community, or even within a person. The Virgin has revealed that the presence of God, invoked with faith and devotion, has the power to alter the energy of any place, dispelling darkness, fear, and despair. When Our Lady appears, her mere presence generates a tangible change. Those who have been blessed to experience her describe an atmosphere filled with calm, light, hope, and a love beyond all human understanding. It's not just a feeling of peace, it's a phenomenon that transforms thoughts, emotions, relationships, and decisions. The divine presence acts as a catalyst that awakens spiritual awareness, aligns the heart with God's will, and allows light to manifest even in the darkest places. The Virgin Mary has shown that this presence can manifest itself in many ways, through blessed objects, consecrated places, signs in nature, intense prayers, and above all, through the open and devoted heart of the believer. Every action performed with love, every prayer offered with faith, and every gesture of compassion contribute to creating an environment where the divine presence becomes perceptible. In other words, transformation begins within and is reflected outward, affecting those around us. One of the most surprising aspects of this presence is that it is not limited by time or space. The Virgin Mary has taught that when a deep connection with God is established, even the most hostile places can be transformed. Homes filled with constant conflict, neighborhoods filled with insecurity, offices filled with tension, or hospitals filled with fear and despair can become havens of peace and love, thanks to the spiritual energy activated through prayer and devotion. The atmosphere-changing presence is not only a collective phenomenon, it is also deeply personal. Every believer has the potential to become a channel of light, radiating calm and protection around them. Our Lady has explained that even a single person with sincere faith and a pure heart can alter the atmosphere of a place, as if their own soul acted as a magnet attracting divine grace and repelling negativity. This means that your faith, your prayer, and your devotion can save not only your spirit, but also that of those around you. In her revelations, the Virgin Mary has emphasized the importance of preparing the environment through simple but powerful rituals, lighting a candle with intention, placing a blessed object in a strategic location, praying with an open voice and heart, and keeping the home and personal space clean and tidy. Each such action is a gesture of cooperation with heaven, a way of inviting the divine presence to settle and remain. The Virgin assures that when these practices are performed with faith, change becomes evident, tension disappears, communication improves, clarity arrives, and divine protection becomes tangible. Furthermore, Our Lady has shown that the presence that changes the environment acts as a shield against negative influences. In a world filled with conflict, alarming news, dense energies, and unforeseen situations, the spiritual energy activated through faith becomes an invisible wall that protects, strengthens, and guides. Those who learn to consistently invoke this presence become beacons of hope, capable of positively influencing entire communities and serving as points of reference for those seeking guidance and security. The Virgin Mary has also revealed that this presence cannot be forced or manipulated. It only manifests where there is humility, purity of intention, and obedience to the divine will. Superficial prayer or seeking personal power through empty rituals do not produce the same effect. True transformation occurs when the heart is sincerely surrendered, when the glory of God is sought, and when the spiritual well-being of others is prioritized. The Virgin Mary insists that the secret of this presence is coherence between thought, word, and action, a complete alignment with the divine light. In conclusion, brothers and sisters, the atmosphere-changing presence is a gift from heaven that teaches us that active faith has real and tangible power in our lives and in our world. These are not isolated miracles, but a constant influence that expands and multiplies every time a pure heart connects with God. The Virgin Mary reminds us that every prayer, every gesture of love, and every act of faith contributes to changing the atmosphere of our surroundings, transforming darkness into light, despair into hope, and fear into divine protection. This presence that the Virgin invites us to cultivate is a path of preparation for the difficult times ahead, especially for the 3 countries that will be shaken. Those who learn to invoke this invisible force will become refugees of safety, beacons of clarity, and messengers of peace, capable of radiating light amidst confusion and chaos, thus fulfilling heaven's promise that no one who sincerely seeks will be abandoned. Brothers and sisters, after having understood how the divine presence can transform environments and hearts, the Virgin Mary guides us toward an even deeper mystery, the power of the name that makes evil tremble. It is not just any name nor an empty word. It is a sacred key, a spiritual shield, and a weapon of light, capable of repelling all darkness, confounding invisible enemies, and bringing immediate protection to those who pronounce it with true faith. This name is not merely symbolic, it is a spiritual vibration charged with divine authority, which resonates in the spiritual world and compels darkness to retreat. The Virgin Mary has revealed that this name is so powerful that demons, evil forces, and negative influences flee at its pronunciation. No matter the intensity of the evil, nor the strategy woven against us, the name invoked with a pure heart cuts chains, dissolves deceptions, and restores peace. But it is important to understand that this power is not activated by superstition or mechanical repetition. It requires conscious intention, sincere faith, and absolute surrender to God's will. Each syllable spoken with devotion is like a ray of light that pierces the darkness and exposes the truth. There are testimonies from believers who, in moments of extreme danger, have felt the immediate intervention of this sacred force. Houses embroiled in inexplicable conflicts, families facing illness, or people trapped in situations of violence experienced a sudden and protective change when invoking this name. Our Lady has explained that its effect does not depend on intellectual knowledge, but on purity of heart and living faith. Even a child who pronounces it with sincere trust can activate this power, because evil cannot resist the vibration of authentic faith. The name has another fundamental characteristic. Its reach transcends physical and spiritual borders. In a world where evil moves rapidly, where news of chaos, violence, and despair fill every space, the name acts as an invisible wall that protects not only the one who invokes it, but also their surroundings, their loved ones, and those around them. The Virgin has emphasized that this protection is especially vital for the 3 countries that will face great shocks, because those who learn to pronounce the name with faith will be shields of light in the midst of the storm. Now, how can we activate this power in our daily lives? The Virgin Mary has taught that the constant practice of prayer is essential. Pronouncing the name in times of danger, uncertainty, or temptation strengthens the connection with God and ensures that light triumphs over darkness. This is not an empty ritual act. It is a dialogue between our soul and the divine source, an affirmation that grace and protection are available to those who sincerely seek refuge. The conscious repetition of the name, accompanied by an attitude of humility and obedience, allows its power to manifest in ordinary and extraordinary situations alike. Furthermore, Our Lady has explained that this name not only repels evil, but also attracts blessings and opens doors to miracles. When uttered with devotion, fears are dispelled, paths are clarified, hopes are renewed, and family and community ties are strengthened. It is as if the vibration of faith generates an invisible field that aligns events with divine will, making the impossible possible and heavenly protection present in every corner of our lives. Therefore, those who ignore its power or doubt its effectiveness miss the opportunity to experience a profound and tangible transformation. Our Lady has also revealed that this name is especially powerful when combined with heartfelt prayer and the practice of mercy. It's not enough to simply pronounce it mechanically. We must live it, integrate it into our actions and decisions, and allow its energy to guide our daily lives. Every act of love, every gesture of compassion, and every effort to do good amplifies the power of the name, multiplying its protective effect and generating an even greater impact on the world. Our Lady insists that faith without action is incomplete, and that the true power of the name is manifested when it is united with the practice of virtue. Finally, brothers and sisters, Our Lady reminds us that this name is a promise of hope for the times to come. In a world increasingly hostile and saturated with darkness, those who adopt this practice will become beacons of light, capable of transforming environments, protecting their families and communities, and resisting any spiritual attack. It is a call to conscious action, a reminder that active faith has real and tangible power, and that every utterance made with a sincere heart brings peace, protection, and divine blessing. This is the message of the Virgin Mary, that we learn to use the name that makes evil tremble, not as an empty amulet, but as a sacred tool of light, hope, and protection. For in the difficult times ahead, when darkness attempts to prevail, only those who embrace this power with true faith will stand firm and secure, radiating the light of heaven every step of their way. And so, brothers and sisters, we prepare for the next revelation, where we will understand how every act of faith, every prayer, and every presence connects with the great promise that never fails. Brothers and sisters, we now enter territory unfamiliar to many, an invisible but profoundly real realm, the traps of the enemy, those subtle nets that seek to ensnare our souls, divert our faith, and weaken our connection with the divine. The Virgin Mary warns us that these traps do not always present themselves in obvious ways. Often they are illusions disguised as opportunities, moments of doubt, words that seem harmless but conceal a spiritual poison. It's crucial that we learn to recognize them, because only then can we walk safely through the approaching storm. The enemy doesn't act directly most of the time. His strategy is discretion, manipulation, and confusion. He makes us believe that certain decisions are harmless, that certain thoughts are trivial, or that some actions are inconsequential. But each of these small slips, each sown doubt, each accumulated resentment, becomes a thread that, if left undetected, gradually traps us. Our Lady has explained that the most dangerous traps are the invisible ones, those that penetrate the heart without our realizing it, diverting our attention from what truly matters: faith, obedience, and total surrender to God. One of the enemy's most used methods is the silent attack on the mind and heart, Constant worries, negative thoughts, and uncontrolled emotions act as open doors for darkness to infiltrate our lives. The Virgin Mary teaches us that we must guard our thoughts and words, because what we allow to grow internally has the power to manifest externally. Every complaint, every doubt, every resentment acts as a magnet that attracts confusion and suffering. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate inner peace, gratitude, and conscious presence, transforming our hearts into an inaccessible refuge for evil forces. But invisible traps don't only occur on the spiritual plane, they also manifest in our social, family, and work relationships. People who seem close can, unintentionally or intentionally, fuel doubts, sow discord, or influence decisions that distance us from our divine purpose. Our Lady reminds us not to underestimate the subtlety of these influences. Observing with discernment, practicing patience, and seeking God's guidance in every interaction is essential to avoid falling into deceptions that seem natural but hide invisible chains that limit our spiritual freedom. A crucial aspect that the Virgin Mary has revealed is the importance of recognizing our own weaknesses. The enemy knows our fears, our insecurities, and our wounds, and uses them as traps to ensnare us. Therefore, the first step to escaping these nets is self-knowledge, humility, and accepting that we need divine help. Prayer, meditation, and spiritual reading are powerful tools that illuminate the path and allow us to see beyond illusion, discerning the true from the deceptive, the temporal from the eternal. Furthermore, Our Lady has warned that in moments of crisis, when we feel fear, uncertainty, or hopelessness, the invisible traps intensify. It is in these moments that the enemy launches his most sophisticated attacks, seeking to destabilize our faith and our will. But it is also in these moments that God's presence grows stronger, provided we know how to invoke His protection with faith and perseverance. Pronouncing the name that makes evil tremble, maintaining constant prayer, and opening our hearts to divine guidance are attitudes that deactivate the traps and allow light to prevail over darkness. The Virgin Mary also teaches us that every challenge, every trial, and every temptation is an opportunity for spiritual growth. Invisible traps, although they appear to be threats, are actually instruments of purification, designed to strengthen our faith, our resilience, and our spiritual clarity. Every time we recognize the trap, resist the temptation, and remain steadfast in faith, we grow in spiritual power and draw closer to God's all-encompassing protection. Brothers and sisters, understanding the enemy's traps requires constant attention, discernment, and a God-centered life. The Virgin Mary exhorts us not to trust in the appearance of security or superficial comfort. We must look beyond what is visible and recognize that the spiritual battle is fought in the heart and mind, where every decision, thought, and word carries eternal weight. Awareness, prayer, and right action are our most powerful weapons against these invisible networks. Finally, Our Lady reminds us that protection depends not only on avoiding traps, but on living in the light of God, radiating faith, love, and mercy. When our hearts remain aligned with divine truth, invisible traps lose their power, because the light and clarity of the Spirit dispel any darkness. Every act of kindness, every sincere prayer, and every gesture of conscious surrender strengthens our resilience, creates an invisible shield, and prepares us for the challenges to come, especially the great events that will affect the 3 countries mentioned in recent prophecies. Brothers and sisters, understanding and recognizing these invisible traps allows us to walk confidently, discern truth from falsehood, and keep our faith firm in the midst of adversity. It prepares us for the next revelation, where we will learn the promise that never fails, a divine truth that sustains the righteous and gives them strength in the face of any shadow that attempts to darken their path. Brothers and sisters, we have reached a crucial moment in our spiritual journey. After understanding the invisible traps of the enemy, it is time to cling to the promise that never fails, that eternal truth that the Virgin Mary has revealed to us, capable of sustaining us even in the darkest moments. This promise is not a vague idea or a passing hope. It is the assurance that God, in His infinite mercy, protects and guides those who sincerely and constantly trust in Him. It is the certainty that, although external circumstances may seem chaotic, the divine plan remains in place, and no evil can prevail over those under His protection. Our Lady teaches us that this promise does not depend on our limited understanding, but on our unwavering faith and our total surrender to God. In a world where uncertainty, fear, and misinformation seem to multiply, clinging to this promise is an act of spiritual courage. It reminds us that we are not alone, that every tear shed, every prayer uttered, and every act of sincere love is recorded in heaven and never goes unanswered. Even when reality seems harsh, even when the events affecting the 3 prophesied countries fill us with fear, the divine promise remains firm, immutable, and perfect, like a beacon illuminating our path through the storm. But what does this promise really mean? It means that God does not abandon His children, that His protection is constant, and that His love is stronger than any force of darkness. No invisible trap can ensnare those who live in His light. No lie can triumph over the truth of His word. The Virgin Mary reminds us that the promise is revealed when we remain faithful, when we resist the distractions of the world, and when we seek, in every moment, the Holy Spirit for guidance. Every prayer that comes from the heart, every act of kindness, every sacrifice made in the name of faith strengthens this connection and makes the divine promise tangible in our daily lives. It is essential to understand that the promise that never fails does not exempt us from trials and challenges. On the contrary, it is often revealed in the midst of conflict, at the moment when we feel all is lost. Our Lady warns us that in these moments our faith must be stronger than ever. When the winds of fear and doubt blow strongly, remembering the promise gives us the certainty that every difficulty has a purpose, that every obstacle is an opportunity for spiritual growth, and that, in the end, light always triumphs over darkness. Brothers and sisters, this promise also calls us to action. It is not enough to simply believe. We must live by faith, act with love, and extend mercy to others. The Virgin Mary shows us that those who embody this promise in their daily lives become bearers of light, living witnesses of divine protection. Their words and actions become beacons for others, guiding them toward the truth and strengthening the community of believers. It is a reminder that the promise is multiplied when it is shared, and its power grows when it is lived with authenticity and dedication. In the context of the prophesied events, the promise that never fails takes on an even deeper dimension. It assures us that even when the 3 countries are shaken by unexpected events, those who remain faithful, attentive to the signs, and united in prayer will be under divine protection. The Virgin Mary emphasizes that this promise does not discriminate. Any heart open to God can experience it, and its reach transcends borders, cultures, and circumstances. The promise is universal, eternal, and invincible, and reminds us that faith is more powerful than any adversity we may face. Furthermore, the promise is manifested through miracles, small and great, signs that confirm to us that God is present and that His word is true. These miracles are not always grand or visible to everyone. Often they are moments of unexpected peace, clarity in difficult decisions, protection from unseen dangers, or comfort in the midst of pain. The Virgin Mary teaches us to recognize these signs, not to underestimate them, and to be deeply grateful for them because they are tangible reminders of God's faithfulness and the fulfillment of His promise. The key to fully living under this promise is constancy in faith and perseverance in prayer. When our mind and heart are aligned with God's will, the promise ceases to be abstract and becomes a lived reality every day. The Virgin Mary urges us not to allow hopelessness, confusion, or the enemy's traps to extinguish our confidence, because even in the most difficult times, God fulfills what He has promised. Every act of faith reinforces divine protection, strengthens our spirit, and prepares us for the challenges to come. Brothers and sisters, the promise that never fails is the pillar of our hope and the anchor of our soul. It assures us that despite the prophecies that speak of upheavals and changes, there is an unshakable refuge in divine love. It teaches us that true strength lies not in human power, but in living faith and total surrender to God. It invites us to walk courageously, to remain vigilant in the face of invisible traps, to act with love, and to trust that in the end, God's light will always prevail. Brothers and sisters, we have traveled a long and deep path, exploring the signs, warnings, prophecies, and promises that the Virgin Mary has given us. We have seen the invisible traps of the enemy. We have learned to invoke His name with power and to feel His transforming presence, and we have understood that the divine promise never fails. Now we come to the culminating moment, to the heart of the revelation. The final key, where the unshakable dwells, that eternal force that no fear, disaster, or trial can destroy. This key is not an object, nor a physical place, nor even a secret that can be discovered by the human mind alone. It is a state of profound connection with God, a spiritual anchorage built through constant faith, sincere prayer, and the total surrender of the heart. The Virgin Mary teaches us that the unbreakable dwells in those who have chosen to live under God's light, who have understood that His protection is absolute and that His love is the ultimate refuge from any adversity. It is the point where faith transcends fear, where hope becomes certainty, and where the soul finds a rest that no external chaos can disturb. To reach this final key, we must first detach ourselves from the ephemeral and fully trust in the eternal. The Virgin Mary calls us to look beyond the alarming news, the prophecies of destruction shaking the 3 countries mentioned above, and the fears the world tries to impose on our hearts. She tells us, "My children, look beyond appearances. What seems fragile is only a passing test. What is eternal is invisible to the eyes, but palpable to the trusting heart." In this key, we learn that strength does not depend on men or circumstances, but on our union with the divine, on our complete surrender to God's will. Our Lady reveals to us that unbreakability is manifested when we remain steadfast in prayer, when we speak to God with sincerity, and when we act with love and compassion, even in the face of injustice or pain. Every act of kindness, every silent sacrifice, every prayer said in the intimacy of the heart contributes to strengthening this spiritual core. And it is precisely in this core that divine protection becomes tangible, where we feel peace even in the midst of chaos, clarity even in the midst of confusion, and confidence even when the world seems to be crumbling around us. Brothers and sisters, the unshakable is not just a passive refuge. It is an active force that transforms the reality around us. When a heart is anchored in this final key, its faith becomes a magnet of light, attracting protection, miracles, and divine guidance. The Virgin Mary assures us that those who dwell in this state do not fear fulfilled prophecies, natural disasters, political turmoil, or social crises, because they know that God acts in every detail and that His plan never fails. It is a certainty that surpasses human understanding and provides a peace that no earthly knowledge can match. Furthermore, the final key teaches us that true spiritual security is found in humility and total surrender. It's not about accumulating power, knowledge, or influence. It's about opening our hearts, recognizing our dependence on the divine, and allowing grace to guide every thought, word, and action. The Virgin Mary invites us to relinquish illusory control over life and to trust fully in God's providence, because only then can the unshakable take root within us and sustain us even in the most difficult trials. This state of unbreakable connection also prepares us to be bearers of light in the midst of darkness. The times ahead, especially for the three countries mentioned in the prophecy, will be enormous challenges for humanity. But those who have understood the final key will act as beacons of hope, bringing comfort and guidance to those who fear, strengthening those who doubt, and showing that God's love is stronger than any adversity. The Virgin Mary reminds us that the witness of those who dwell in the unbreakable is a collective spiritual shield, capable of protecting not only oneself, but also the community of believers. The manifestation of unbreakability is not limited to the spiritual realm. It also impacts everyday life. It is reflected in the ability to remain calm in the face of crisis, the wisdom to make just decisions, the patience to wait for divine timing, and the strength to persevere without giving up. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to exercise faith, every difficulty a catalyst for spiritual growth, and every moment of uncertainty an opportunity to remember that God always keeps His word. Brothers and sisters, the final key is the door that connects us to the eternal presence of God, where no evil force can penetrate, where faith becomes an impenetrable shield, and where hope is never extinguished. The Virgin Mary invites us to enter this state with determination, to live it fully every day, and to share its light with the world, remembering that in unbreakability dwells true freedom, supreme peace, and the transformative power that only God can offer. As we close this path of revelation, we must understand that every teaching, every warning, and every promise of the Virgin Mary has led us to this point. The encounter with the eternal, the connection with that which can never be destroyed, and the certainty that our faith has a safe haven. The final key gives us the strength to look to the future without fear, to embrace challenges with confidence, and to live each day with the assurance that God keeps His promises, that His love is unchanging, and that His protection never fails. Brothers and sisters, at this moment, I invite you to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and feel the presence of the unshakable within you. Feel how every beat of your heart aligns with divine will, how the peace that transcends all understanding fills your soul, and how the light of God begins to radiate from within you out into the world. This is the place where faith becomes certainty, where hope becomes reality, and where God's love remains steadfast, today and always.